So we're in session 19. Well done for persevering this far. I trust that what we are learning is really enriching your life, your relationship with God, and that it will overflow into a fruitful life of ministry as a disciple of Christ. So now I want to just talk a little bit more about the discovery groups or home groups. And I want to say, like whether you're doing discovery Bible study with Bible verses and following a curriculum of different verses to go through, or whether you're following, and that once again we'll make available to you on this website, which I'm wanting to develop, or whether you're following, going through Rooted to help lay foundations through explaining the scriptures. The point of discovery and a Bible study format like this is that you're not doing all the talking. You're allowing people to discover for themselves. And so you're not allowing anyone in the room really to switch off and pretend they're listening, because they need to engage to receive more. One of the questions that comes up with this often is, okay, but what about teaching? Where does teaching fit in? Where does instruction come in? I'm so glad that you asked. It does come in. And I believe that, by leading through questions, you are teaching. Number one, so we need to look at teaching differently. The object of teaching, or the aim of teaching, isn't to get through a nicely crafted outline that you have prepared. A good teacher is somebody who helps people learn. It's not about having a good outline. It's about helping someone learn. And you can help someone learn through asking them questions. You have to find the best way for people to learn and help them learn. But then there is a place, I believe, where like in a discovery Bible study, you wouldn't be just explaining scripture all the time. You would be helping people to discover the truth. But in a gathering, I believe you would have fivefold leadership coming in. In a gathering, and a gathering, remember, is a number of different groups gathering together as a church. And there, I believe you would have fivefold leadership who would be explaining scriptures, helping lay foundations, and helping to bring doctrinal clarity and direction. Okay? I believe that there would need to be that kind of input to disciples' lives. But in disciple making, that we lay the foundations and we help people discover the truth. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to say. Then the second thing I wanted to say on this was just, we're talking about facilitating discovery and facilitating groups. So we need to ask ourselves, what does that mean? What is facilitation skills that are necessary for us to be able to effectively help people learn in this kind of format? And so how do you know when you're dominating a discovery group and you're not allowing facilitation? Okay, this is going to be a good challenge for many of you, I believe. Okay, because I know some of you some of us love the sound of our own voices. Some of us love to just teach and explain the deeper truths of the scriptures. And there's nothing wrong with that. We want to help people discover them. And in a discovery Bible study, if you see a truth there, you can share the truth. But don't share it for 20 minutes or even 10 minutes. Okay? Help people to discover it. And then you share what you see, and everyone shares, and you feast on the word together. But if you hear the sound of your voice more than anyone else's voice, you're not facilitating. You're dominating. If people are not interrupting you, then you're dominating, you're not facilitating. People should have the freedom to interrupt you, to ask their question, to give their input, so that there's healthy interaction. If after you have spoken, the group is silent and doesn't say anything or can't say anything, then you're probably dominating and you're not facilitating. Okay, remember, the aim is people being taught. The aim is making disciples. The aim is not for you to give a good teaching. Okay, you can give a good teaching and accomplish that, but you get better results through facilitating, through asking the right questions. Not just making great statements, but make a statement, ask a question which helps someone dig deeper. Okay, when you share, are only just always sharing your knowledge about the word and what you know about the word, then you're probably also dominating. You know, if we were doing I've been in Bible studies where I'm not leading, I'm or facilitating, I'm part of the Bible study, and I know a lot more than anyone else in the room. And people are, you know, I could just hijack that Bible study and I could just teach on whatever they're talking about and open up the Word, and, you know, it could just be powerful. You know, but I resist, I hold back. Meekness is strength under control. For you to be a true leader, a good leader, you need to be meek. Meek is humble, meek is teachable, but meekness is also strength under control. You need to be able to hold back. You know, when I'm busy helping someone discover truth, I don't tell them everything I know. You know, if someone shares a story, I don't always, and even if I've got a better story, I don't tell them my story. I was in something like that the other day. I can't remember the context or who was there, but someone was sharing about some experience that they had, and I had had a much better experience than that in this context of travel or whatever it was, but I didn't share it because I was like, you know what, let them have their moment. That's a great story. I don't want to overshadow it. You know, sometimes we're always just competing in a Bible study even, and we shouldn't be competing. Okay, so don't just always you don't have to share everything you know about righteousness in that Bible study. Help people to discover it, and then the next week, continue on talking about righteousness and share one or two more things that help them to discover what that's about. If you're more concerned with correcting people's doctrine and correcting what people believe, then you're not facilitating. You're dominating. And our goal shouldn't be correcting people, it should be love. And loving people into the truth. So yes, if someone's got bad doctrine, you might need to clarify, you might need to correct, you might need to deal with it. But don't feel like you always need to make sure everyone knows the right from wrong, and that you're always correcting everything and putting everybody straight. You know, that's not going to be a healthy environment, and that's not facilitation. If the members of your group are always receiving truth from you and not from the Bible, then you're also dominating and you're not facilitating. See, the goal with the discipleship group, the discovery group, is that you're facilitating a discovery of the Word. So even if you're using Rooted, there's lots of scripture in there. And you're pointing people back to scripture. You're not pointing them back to Rooted. You're pointing them back to the scriptures that have been spoken about and Rooted, and other scriptures that are in the Word. But point people back to the scripture. Someone asks a question, don't answer it. Someone asks a question, bring up a scripture and say, hey, would you mind looking up 1 John 4 verse 17 for us? And then they look it up and, hey, would you read that to us? I believe this scripture would be helpful with your question. They read that. What do you think that scripture is telling us concerning your question? And then they answer the question. Let's say they butcher it. Ask them another question to try and get to the right answer. And then if that doesn't work, then explain it to them. But point them towards scripture in explaining truth and giving them truth. Don't just give them the truth that you heard some famous Bible teacher give. You know, I make it a practice in Bible studies and in teaching not to quote ministers and pastors, but to quote the Word, because I want to point people back to the Word. Okay? Next point there. If you participate readily in the discussion, but if you're like very easy to participate in the discussion and give your input, but you're not ready to, in the last parts of the discovery, share about how you've got course corrections, then I would say you need to stop dominating and you need to actually start participating and facilitating. Don't be over ready, especially as the facilitator, to share your spiritual knowledge with people, but not share how this applies to you personally and how you're willing to change. Be vulnerable. Be open. Be humble enough to say, hey, this truth really impacted me. Matthew 28, I realize I'm not making disciples like I should be. Or whatever the case is. Be real with the people. They'll appreciate it. We need to make sure that we're not just dominating these groups, but we're facilitating these groups in a way which helps people to grow, in a way which helps people to learn, which helps people to become better followers of Christ within community and better fishers of men. And so I want to challenge you in the way in which you lead your groups, your teams, and the way, even if you're preaching at the pulpit, the way in which you preach at the pulpit. This mindset has changed the way I teach, and that I use a lot more, I've always used questions, but I use a lot more questions now, from the pulpit even, to help stimulate people towards thinking so that they can get a revelation, so that they can grow in their relationship with God, so that it can transform them and help them to become better disciples of Jesus.